How to love your partner's imperfections. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Why your partner disrespects you and how you have the power to influence a different lifestyle, a different adventure for your marriage. Will this work for me? Stop sending miles of text messages. Your wife withholding sex from you. Truth, integrity, moving fast, and sound decisions. How to love your partner's imperfections. Guys, I thought this would be a fun episode, and really quickly, Kathryn is perfect, even though she's not really touching me. We had to turn the air conditioner off in the studio because if I could show you, the hot water tank blew last night and water was...
And who knew that here in Texas, you keep a hot water tank in the attic?
In the attic, never heard of it. But all right, guys, so we're still madly in love, but I wanted to talk about this because a couple weeks ago, I wrote this down to bring it up to you guys because Kathryn and I had kind of a unique conversation. I don't remember how it started, but do you remember we were talking about essentially the easy way to look at this would be like if your partner has flaws. It's a strong if because mine doesn't. And
mine doesn't either. So this is all theory, guys.
The theory. But okay, if there's things you don't like, we call those flaws or maybe imperfections. And, you know, I was just scripting something. I go through ideas of what I want to talk about on content and kind of work them out. And that was sort of the last line I said is stop trying to fix or change your partner. Like you guys have to understand that it is such a blessing to now be in such a safe marriage for both of us, which I know might sound funny coming from me, but in a place where you can just be yourself, literally.
Unapologetically yourself.
That's right. There are things.
Leaving toilet paper rolls and toothpaste everywhere. Yeah. Apparently those are some of my flaws, guys.
Being able to discuss these things with your partner, far too many of you are not in a position where you really can.
And when you get in a position where you can, you don't need to discuss it because who cares?
That's why I said it was such a funny conversation.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, because it was really, we talked about things that we would say we don't like, but it wasn't really a thought of we don't like. It was just, I guess it was more about those just aren't traits or characteristics that I have or that Kathryn has.
Right, and it stemmed from a conversation about some people that we coach that are... Most of the time, we would not say that you're incompatible. We have recently worked with a couple, and I actually believe that they are incompatible.
But from the beginning.
From the very beginning. It wasn't like they became incompatible. Something drew them together. I'm not actually sure what. And they don't appreciate each other's differences. The way that she is, he doesn't have any mercy for. The way that he is, she doesn't want to compromise and doesn't have any mercy for. And so when you are together and you're in a healthy relationship, the things that you think would be a big deal are not. You're not actually incompatible. And I don't want to change my husband. He's grown so much. You guys have heard what an asshole he used to be. I want him to continue to grow where he wants to grow, not because I want to come in and correct him all the time. Because you're still an asshole. Just not to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes, but I'm an asshole to him as well sometimes, And if we were to come in and correct everything that we think should be changed, then you're changing the person. It's like, so one of my things is I can be very direct and very sharp. And I try, my husband's taking a deep breath, because I definitely can be. I have to be careful because I can hurt someone very easily by saying something just very direct and without thinking about kind of sugarcoating it, because I don't sugarcoat anything. So I have to work on presenting myself a little bit more gently. But if he were to correct me every time I was too sharp, he would correct me all the time. It's something that I work on, but it's also something it's part of who I am. That's part of why you guys love hearing me speak, because you want to hear my opinion. And if you don't, then I don't know why you're listening to this podcast. But,
see ya.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia. But some people like it. And if you don't, it's okay. If you don't like that I'm direct, if you don't like that I'm opinionated, if you don't like that I'm a little bit sharp, that's okay. We don't need to be in a relationship with each other. He is fine with it. If I get to, it happens for me automatically. It's just who I am. It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to change it to be more gentle, but naturally that's who I am. And so if I get to be a little bit too sharp, he will, get me to check myself. And I know by the time he does make that correction, it's probably because I've been too sharp for too long and I just need a little redirection.
Let's pause for a second because I want to give you guys some practical, because a lot of you guys are not going to be able to go in with some sort of correction like that. It's like if your partner's getting angry and we talk about some of the bad behavior that comes with that, you can't correct that right now. You have to only try to connect by setting a better example of what you would do with your emotional regulation. Okay? And the reason why this is very important is because The very first thing you need to realize is like some of the stupid shit that you guys think are imperfections are probably not. I mean, like if we use like the cleanliness of the house, okay? I've learned to compromise that from the moment I met my wife, she has a different standard of what the organization, let's say, would look like, okay?
I leave piles of stuff everywhere.
And so,
but they're organized, guys.
If it bothers me, I go in and take care of it. You know, like that's what I would teach in my course because it's my home too. And yes, it's her mess potentially, let's say, but you can't go correct that. Right now, I could work something out as a connected partner with Kathryn. You guys probably can't. You know, you might have
Unfortunately, I birthed 3 of myself as well.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh,
it's even a struggle for me.
So, what I want you to first focus on is most of these little things are actually just little things. They feel like massively big things
when you're not connected.
When you're not connected, okay. Some of those words that Kathryn was talking about can be sharp. I know she doesn't intend to hurt me. I had to learn to process and manage the emotions I was feeling internally because it was attacking me. That's how I took it. But most of the time, she's just abrupt. You know, like and actually, if you look at something you don't like, that quality of Kathryn is so fucking awesome. Say when we're having a conversation and she uses wit and it just turns into some laughable moment. Or if we're out in public and we get what we want faster because she's like, boom, right on with what she wants to say. It's so much faster. We get to the good stuff quicker. So I couldn't have what I love if I didn't embrace.
I love that.
That would be like what we call an imperfection. Okay?
And that's the same with you being, I say it very loosely. I say my husband's an asshole. So I don't think that you're an asshole, but the way that he communicates is, there's sometimes it sounds like there's anger or frustration behind it, but really it's passion. He's passionate about how he feels, and he wouldn't be getting the results with the men that we work with if he didn't speak to them the way that he does. Now, it doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody wants to be spoken to the way that he speaks to people. He also doesn't speak to me that way. So part of the reason I don't like it is because I can still get a little bit triggered if he's talking to someone else, sending a voice note, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not talking to me. It's not a big deal. They don't have a history. It's not like they're fine with it. That's actually why he hired you to be put in your place like that. To cast his ass.
Now keep in mind,
I couldn't have what I have if you didn't do that, because he's very outward about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and it gets people results. And that's the same thing what you just said. That's the same thing
that's transpired in our life.
Yes. Now,
again, a lot of it's the mentality. It's not the way I would speak to Kathryn. It's the way I would do something in our home, for example. Okay. And so if you understand that, you really need to start to focus on your connection first, knowing that mostly the things that you don't like are things that bring out the other things you like, the parts of her or him that you love, okay? Now, there's gonna be some other things that maybe that's not true. You know, one of the people in the fan mail is talking about an open marriage that their wife wants, okay? Well, that's an imperfection, highly, right, okay? But chances are, you're looking at it completely wrong. They either don't want to have sex with you, or they don't want to have sex with you. That's it.
One or the other, guys.
That's it. It's one or the other, which means you are undesirable. It's not an imperfection. It's your imperfections. What can I look at? Most of the time, if you spend more time focused on who am I? What could I do differently? You know, I'll give you a super simple example, okay? That toothpaste that we talked about recently, you know, I have my own toothpaste in a drawer because when I take toothpaste off, toothpaste doesn't go everywhere. When Kathryn does, from the moment she uses it for the first time, there's toothpaste that will eventually be hard and you'll be brushing with hard toothpaste in your mouth. I don't know how she can handle it, but I can't. So I do something about it. I put a toothpaste in a different drawer, okay?
And I actually didn't know you had your own toothpaste in a different drawer.
Well, we talked about it on this podcast and I moved past it quickly, but now she knows, folks.
I'll try not to use yours now.
But let's just say Kathryn said to me, well, she didn't say, I want an open marriage. That would never have been something she would have said, but she did say she was repulsed and she didn't want me. Either way, it was the same thing. There were things in myself, my own imperfections. Remember, it was followed with, I'm repulsed. It was my attitude, that asshole that she's talking about. There wasn't enough of the good man, but coming from those qualities, which means they were my imperfections. And so this is where our conversation kind of went. It was a lot about that night about what we love about each other. Again, the only way I can say it, I don't remember how we worded it, but we didn't say it like, these are things I don't like. But the only way I can say it is we're both so comfortable being ourselves and it is just the way it is. You know, I remember recently, and then over the next couple of weeks, it's turned into like lots of lessons for people. Remember a few months ago, we went out for lunch and I was standing, we were waiting for an Uber, And
I do
I was
remember
standing
this.
and I stand kind of funny and stretch out my left Achilles tendon and calf and heel. And I rotate as I stretch because I have a rebuilt heel and ankle, okay? And it hurts sometimes when I'm walking on it or the weather or whatever, so I'll stretch it. And Kathryn...
Pause. Don't you guys think it's cute that he says Achilles?
Yes. And so essentially I do this. I've been doing this weird stretch since 2010 when I hurt myself, well, after I healed. And Kathryn...
And it's a weird stretch.
Kathryn finally had, I don't know if it's the courage, the guts, we're safe enough in these imperfections.
The mimosas I had at brunch.
She says, do you ever wonder what people think about you when they look at you doing that? Meaning, I think you look kind of silly, maybe even stupid, okay? And so all I did was I just looked at her because I know who I am, and I said, nope.
Then I was like, okay then.
And that's it.
All right.
Okay, so even if I did take it personal, which I didn't, I have to process that. It does look kind of silly. Could I do this at a different time? Maybe be more proactive with my mobility? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But it doesn't matter. And whether or not she thinks it's silly or not, at least I'm fucking hot and sexy. And
That's right.
And I'm doing the stretch as a hot and sexy man. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to work out because you look silly and fat. I don't know. But you got to take care of what your imperfections are. And the more you love each other, the more they're not imperfections anymore. It's just you fucking find what good comes from the things you don't like. And sometimes that's going to be on you. Sometimes that's going to be part of your partner that you just fucking love. Yeah. Okay?
Which should be most of it.
That's right.
Yeah, even the stretch.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.